What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Brandon Golden Show. Super fired up to have my man, Iannotti, on here. Assistant hitting coach in the big leagues with Toronto. Sweet Lou, welcome, brother.
What's up? Glad to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, dude. It's always fun when we get to hang out and talk a little bit. For all the listeners, Lou and I met in the Dodgers organization. We were both in the minor leagues. I was a performance coach, obviously, and Lou was doing his thing on the hitting side, and then moved up to a coordinator and is now rocking and rolling in the show with the Blue Jays. So, Lou, just talk to us a little bit about your path to professional baseball as a coach and kind of how you got to where you're at.
Yeah. Back in 2018, um, I started with the Dodgers. My first role, I was in low A with them at the time, which was Great Lakes. Started actually as a development coach. I just had got done playing indie ball, played in college. Um, and Dodgers were the first team to kind of give me an opportunity. And that first year was uh, probably the most impactful in the sense that like you get your foot in the door. And I was just doing so much. I mean, I was working on uh, pitcher game plans for opposing hitters, and I was working on hitter game plans for opposing pitchers. I was helping out with at that time everyone had started really using like TrackMan, like Rapsodo, um, and the Dodgers were, a few years into like their shift in PD with the new front office that they had, um, and it was like drinking out of a fire hose, which was great because they had so many resources and, as you can attest to, a lot of really good people. Um, and you just had an opportunity to learn so much from just doing, right? And they just basically were like, "Hey, this is all the stuff you have available to you. Just go, like
Yeah.
just go, do, create." And so getting to work with the staff there, the players there, and then just like slowly starting to work with like the hitting coaches who were there that first year, kind of carved out that like it felt like hitting was going to be the thing that I gravitated to the most naturally. Um, and just kind of took off after that. So the following year, I started to kind of travel around a little bit. That was 19 and 20. Obviously, COVID, 21, all kind of similar roles. In 22, like somewhat traveling around, roving, coordinating, kind of helping oversee the hitting department, and just provide, different perspective on uh, kind of what hitters need to be working on, using data to kind of back some of those decisions. Um, and then just communicating within the department, and then obviously working with hitters, like individually, was all kind of part of what I was doing is traveling around. And then it was 23. They asked me to kind of stay in my roving role on paper, quote unquote, but they asked me to go to Double A and be the hitting coach there. So I went and did that, and then 24 resumed kind of the roving activities, and then last year, I got hired by the Blue Jays, and was here last year in 25, and here this year in 26. So like the progression was long time with LA. I think it was 7 years, um, which was they're great 7 years. I learned a lot, met a lot of really good people, um, and just I would say the biggest thing that was for me was I just really like to dive in and go. And so they gave me that opportunity, and I'm, forever grateful for that because they just had so many resources available, and then they were just like you can go ahead and do whatever you want to do, generally speaking, assuming you're doing a good job.
Right.
And so you just got to, carte blanche, just go in, and
Yeah.
learn as much as you possibly can with the things that you have available to you. And when you're working with good players and you're working with good people, it's a lot of fun every day to go to work. Um, and then yeah, last year was probably the best like highlight of my career thus far. It was the most fun. Nobody, everyone would have fun winning.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun last year as well. So like that's kind of generally where I went and how I got here.
Yeah, man. That's super cool. I mean, obviously, you're 100% right with the way the Dodgers do things, and they let you rock and roll. And there's just such good people there, and they put me in the similar position and go do your thing and learn and kind of rock and roll there. So that was a lot of fun for me as well, Lou. Let's talk a little bit about just what all goes into those activities, like from like the development coach to being a coordinator to back to the double A guy and on the hitting side. Like dive into like the depth of the hitting plans and just the overall game planning that you would do. And the reason I say that is I don't know that most folks outside of professional baseball, even some college guys, I don't think they understand the depths that we go to on the professional side at times. Talk a little bit about that, and you don't necessarily have to name a player, but
Yeah.
just the way you would go about things and how you would lock that in and how you would present that.
Yeah, so when you say game plans, you're not referring to like pitcher game plans. You're talking about like game plan for a hitter to like get better, like
Yeah,
developmentally.
yeah, like maybe like just like the developmental plan.
Yeah. So I think that like before you go into professional baseball, you're trying to like, oh, this player needs to like work on X because this is what I see.
Right,
Um, and I think in hitting specifically, you realize that there's a lot of how should I, like a lot of biases that we have that like we want to gravitate towards certain things, and some of those are from our own experience. Some of those are like recency biases where like we tried something with a hitter and it worked, and therefore we see another hitter and we're like, oh, this thing will probably work for them too because I just did it. And
right,
so it's not right or wrong. It just um, when you're developing a plan for a hitter, you want to bring in some subjective kind of like opinions and some objective opinions. And I think hitting is like the blend of the like an art and a science. And so you have a lot of numbers and a lot of data. And for teams out there now, there is very few things that you don't have an answer to from a like underlying number perspective. Now, what's hard is in baseball is just because you have that information, there generally isn't still like a black and white answer. You can increase a guy's bat speed, and on paper, when you're giving him a higher opportunity to be successful, because the faster you swing, the faster the ball goes in play, and like you have better expected outcomes. Like that's
right.
just the math behind it, right? You can't argue
Yeah,
with it. But then you see players who increase their bat speed and they don't have as good of a year, and it's like that's confusing to like somebody who is not in baseball and they're just looking like, wait, I thought if you did this, it's like a 1-to-1 like
yeah,
result increase. And so when we're trying to build out plans, we're trying to do so with like if you're in PD and it's pre like debut, you're trying to look ahead, be like, okay, where is this guy going to go? When he gets there, first of all, can he get there? Why can't he get there? And if he can get there, how can we best prepare him? And like, what are the things that we think he's going to get exposed to, and how is that going to, you know, cause him issues there? And we need to start working on that now. So we
yeah,
build out a plan. It's like you have numbers behind it. So generally, you're going to look at a guy's batted ball profile. You're going to look at like where they hit the ball, how hard they hit the ball, how often they hit the ball at certain angles, and you're going to kind of have a picture painted of like when this person puts the ball in play, like what type of hitter are they? Then you're going to have like the underlying kind of result numbers, your standard like batting average, on base, slug, OPS. And then you're going to have more expected numbers, which are going to go into tying in that batted ball with kind of an expected outcome. And then you're going to have kind of result based stat or process related stats. So people like talk about strikeout or like K, walk, chase, miss. And you start boiling into like the actual hitter, and like how they conduct at bats. And so you're taking all these numbers on this side, and then you pull in the movement, right? So now you're going to collaborate kind of with your performance group and kind of how guys move from a movement profile standpoint. And then there's a lot of biomechanical data out there from force plates to like how guys are moving in games that's being captured by a lot of teams at the minor league level, across all major league organizations. So when you're pulling in this information, you're talking about batted ball information, the kind of result information, to the process information, and then the movement information, and then like how they're actually moving swing specifically, for that guy. And so you're
yeah,
pulling in all this data, and you're trying to like paint a picture and in your own head of like, okay, what am I even looking at? Like, what are the problems? What are the positives? What are the negatives? And where do we want him to go? And
right.
like you use some of the numbers to help kind of guide like where there are holes in the game. And you try to find out like why from a movement perspective some of those outcomes might be happening. And then once you kind of have that, you develop somewhat of a plan. And you ask any hitting coach, you might develop a plan, put in tons of hours, and you get in the cage and you have some solutions. And the first thing you try with a guy, he absolutely hates it and is off
Yep.
of it. And, it doesn't work for him. And so you have to have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and you just got to keep kind of rifling through. And sometimes it's very humbling most times
Yeah.
because you have all this information and in hitting it's really hard one to one to just like move the needle and get a
Hmm.
guy like tremendously better. Um, and so generally like that's all the data that we're taking in and then you're just trying to formulate a plan that is just as um, informed as possible when you're going into the cage and being like, okay, this is what I think we should do, here's why, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it comes to that point, and we talked about this the other day, but like the plan A, plan B, plan C thing, I think is vital for coaches of all ages and all skill levels to understand, because it's our role as coaches, whether it's on the performance side, pitching, hitting, whatever it is. It's our job to connect to them, in my opinion, and give them, to your point, the solutions that they need and that they feel comfortable with to go out there and execute it. So how did you come up with the comfortability? Like, how did you get comfortable having all those multiple plans? And how did you do that, especially at the big league level with the kind of superstars that you work with, to just make sure that you maintain your credibility while also like getting the guys better?
So I would say the biggest thing is just being in the cage and doing it. Like the more you're in the cage, the more problems you run into, the more solutions you're going to be tasked to come up with. And it's like people talk about being an entrepreneur. You often hear people talk about like you just learn by doing.
Yeah.
And being a hitting coach is very similar in that regard, where it's like you learn by getting reps in the cage and being with hitters.
Hmm.
Um, and there's a lot of people who have really good ideas about hitting, about the concept of hitting, but going in the cage is a very humbling experience because a lot of ideas that I have, when I walk in the cage, you realize how quickly like they don't end up working.
Yeah.
And it might not be because it's the wrong idea, but it's because the execution of how to get to that like ideal outcome is way different than what you anticipated. So you could think a guy, the idea is the guy needs to lower his launch because he's
Hmm.
everything is an air like out. He doesn't hit the ball hard enough to be as high as he is in the air from a launch perspective. And so you're like, okay, well, this guy needs to like be more downhill. He needs to be a
Hmm.
little bit more direct, right? The opposite of guys who need to create a little bit more loft. And so you have all these things in your head and solutions of like, all right, I'm gonna get him to do like swing down, or I'm gonna get him to be a little bit more level with his shoulders as he moves forward. And you're going through all these things and the idea is correct, but all the solutions in which you keep providing don't work.
Yeah.
And so you're left with like, okay, you have to revisit, like, is my end goal, is that even right in the first place? Like you start questioning, like, is this like, should I even be trying to do this? And so it's very humbling when you're in there to then like have to keep iterating and iterating and iterating and iterating until you find something with a hitter that works. And you mentioned the credibility piece is like along that journey, you only have so much like of a wick that you
Hmm.
can burn with a hitter, right? Like if most hitters are not going to want to show up every single day and be like, okay, well, it didn't work yesterday, so we're going to change again, and we're going to change again, and we're
Right.
going to change again, and you're going to change again. So that's where the human component comes in, and you have to be really good at having trust and being able to communicate with players and just be a real human, real dude with these guys.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you have a relationship in which you can be honest and actually work through those things. And generally speaking, like you want to give things a little bit of like a window to like marinate and like see if it works. And so when you're not changing it daily, 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 you end up having a little bit more leeway to be like, all right, we tried this for the past week. Like, here were some things that were good, and here were some things that like, all right, it didn't really move as much as we thought it would. Like, hey, why don't we try adding in this? And a
Yeah.
lot of the things we do ends up being external too. And that's
Hmm.
one of the ways that you can keep kind of that bandwidth free for the hitter is you work on things that are not very internal. So when you asked about how you work with a lot of these guys, like a lot of the guys here like to do externally focused things. Where in the minor leagues, where guys have more time, less pressure, like you have a little bit more leeway to like get in the weeds a little bit.
Right.
Right. Where here, the only thing that matters is what happens at night
Tonight.
when the
Yep.
game starts.
Yep.
And
7 o'clock.
so, that pressure is real and guys feel
Hmm.
it. And so when you prepare them, you want to prepare them with something that is productive for them to work on to help them get better, but also they're mentally feeling good going into the game
Yeah.
or as good as possible. You're never going to feel great every day. Most hitters
Right.
don't feel good going into the game. Um, and so you have to balance all these things in order to work on them because you need to work on stuff, but you also need to keep the bandwidth of the player open because you want them as free as possible when they go into the game. And so getting creative with your environments and the type of instruction you're giving is kind of been the biggest bang for your buck that I've seen at this level.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I think you have a really cool insight just because of your experiences and who you are as a person. So I would love to hear what we kind of talked about it on the phone the other day, but I want to give the listeners kind of an idea of our conversation a little bit. With your thought process now and the way that you look at hitting and development and just the overall human organism that is a hitter, how would you go back and maybe teach yourself or, I guess, help other coaches in the player development model, like to get a little bit further and maybe have a little bit bigger impact?
Yeah, so I think the uh the coaching piece is interesting because when when I was exposed to major leaguers on a daily basis, you see the pressure of the environment in which they're in nightly, but you also see the level of competition and expectation that they're going to be held to nightly. And so when you are a minor league coach or a minor league coordinator and you had for me I didn't play in the big leagues,
Yeah,
right? So I always had that in the back of my mind as like there is a huge respect to people who've played. And I think in today's world there's a lot of people who maybe don't respect somebody just because they played, and then kind of like vice versa, right? There you see people butt heads on social media, and it's like, guys, it's generally somewhere in the middle.
yeah,
And I think that when people play, they have an experience that is very difficult to replicate. And so you can learn a lot from them. And
yeah,
I think then when you see it on a nightly basis, you grow to appreciate like there are former players who are out of the game for the past maybe like 5, 6, 7 years who come back and are hanging out at the field and watching guys take BP or watching guys, hit. And they're like, dude, I'm so glad that I don't play today because I don't think like hitting looks fun, and
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
that's 5, 6, 7 years removed. And
right,
I think that like when you see it on a nightly basis, you grow to appreciate like there are not a lot of guys who are quote unquote midweek guys, right?
yeah,
There's not a lot of guys who are like, oh, I'm just gonna feast on this pitcher tonight and we're
yeah,
just gonna score a bunch of runs and it's gonna be easy. And I think there are some hitters who are naturally very gifted, and there are most hitters have to work even at the major league level to be successful. And so I think when you see it on a nightly basis, you have a new appreciation for like the standard in which players are going to be held to from a performance output perspective. And so when you're a coach and you go back and you look at the lens in which you're viewing the minor league player or college player, you can see what the end outcome is of like where they're trying to go to and where they're at now. It'd be like, okay, what is that distance that they need to cover? And you've seen players, right? You've seen Michael Bush, Miguel Vargas, Andy
yeah,
Pages. You've seen guys in the minor leagues close that gap. And so
hmm,
then when you go back and you revisit and you're like, okay, what do what is the player X that I see today? Where is he relative to other people at a similar point in his career? And how far away is he from that level that you've seen and he's going to be held to? Like how far is that gap? And like there's a little bit more sense of urgency, I think, on some ends of the scale of like, all right, like this isn't going to work. Like
Yeah.
we need to it's not going to work, but like we need to expose you to certain things now to like force that a little bit. And then on the
Yeah.
opposite end of the spectrum, you also have to have a little bit of grace too, because when you see people like struggle along the way and still come out great, then you can also on the same token like have a little bit of grace for what a guy is going through and not panic, right? And there's
Yeah.
that's generally it goes both ways. Is somebody sees prospect X struggling, it's pure panic. And
Hmm.
then other person sees, prospect having some success and it's like, "Oh, he's going to be great."
Right.
Right? And both thought processes in my mind are wrong. And it's like there's like needs to be a healthy level of skepticism,
Hmm.
right, to like continue to push the needle forward, and then there needs to also be like a healthy level of like grace of like, okay, like we don't need to panic at every struggle that comes along, because that's kind of what the minor leagues is for. That's why you're
Right.
there. But when you have that kind of mindset, it kind of opens up, okay, what you see on a nightly basis, I would go back and I would make sure I had that lens of like, okay, there's a little bit of grace, there's a little bit of urgency.
Yeah.
And from a realistic outcome, like these guys who are here are so talented. There's the talented pool who's like your Trout, your Judge, your Vladimir, like those guys, like they are so special in what they can do and just roll out of bed and do.
Yeah.
And then you have guys like that who also work hard, right? In that pool, and Vladimir does, like I'm sure Trout, I'm sure Judge, like there are guys who are that talented and work really hard, and
Right.
like it's like holy crap, like that's
Yeah.
crazy. And then
Yeah.
you have guys who are like they're physically good enough to be there, like skill wise, but they had to work really, really hard to get there and stay there.
Yeah.
And so unless you're the guy who's going to roll out of bed and hit 400, like even in that case, there are guys who can do that and are working really hard. And most of the population in this high level is needs to work really hard,
Yeah. For
and
sure.
they need to understand that like when you walk in the door, you need a ticket to get to the show. So there are some physical
Yeah.
things that you need to be able to do to like get a ticket and get entry into the game. And
Yeah.
like once you have that, you have a shot. And so some guys who come in, it's like, hey, I don't know how he got into professional baseball, but he's here. And if he wants to get to Major League Baseball, like, yes, he's a contact speed guy, but there's like
Right.
a floor level of skill that we need to get him to from a hitting perspective, from a defense, from a base running, for him to take advantage of those tools
Yeah.
or take advantage of like the one carrying tool. And so I would go back and probably have a little bit more sense of urgency of
Hmm.
just like where's the group of guys that physically just fall short, and let's be blunt,
Yeah.
right? And like we're gonna work on this now, because we're not saying you're not good, but we're
Right.
saying is this area of your game, whether it's bat speed or pitch velocity or whatever it is, like this needs to improve to get your floor a little bit higher of just
Hmm.
like the outcome. If there's zero players in Major League Baseball who have the fastball characteristics that you do, and not in like a unique positive way, but in like
Right.
a negative way, or the bat speed and combination of contact ability, like if that doesn't meet the requirements, then like we need to bring up something, right? Like we
Yeah.
need to do something to give you a better shot. And I would probably have a little bit more sense of urgency and like realism in terms of like, or I would say just like bluntness of just like,
Yeah.
hey, this is what we need to work on, and here's why. Um, and we would do that from a number and like biomechanic. We would already do
Hmm.
that, but it's more so the urgency behind like come on, like we gotta go. And then if
Yeah.
it was college, there'd be even more of like a that you're a little bit younger in the kind of the age cycle in some senses of like, hey, we need to you're 18, like there are already guys who are in professional baseball at 18, like
Yeah.
where do you fall short, and like
Right.
like let's go, like we gotta get working on this now. And I think that urgency would be the biggest thing. And then for coaches, um I think the more solutions that you can have, the better. And the more you can communicate with the player through non-direct means, so like external environments, because I've seen a lot of players who are like, "Hey man, like I don't feel good," and they don't want to talk about their swing.
Right. Then what?
So like, how are you going to help that player given the way they want to be helped? And if you don't have a solution for them, then like that's ultimately it's going to be a reflection on you.
Yeah.
So, and there's no escaping it in hitting. And when guys do bad, it's your fault. And when
Hmm.
guys do good, it's what they were supposed to do, right? Like
Yeah.
that's just the nature of the game. And that's just the way it goes. And so when you sign up for that, you've got to be aware. And there are a lot of guys who like different things. There are a lot of guys who like the external. There are a smaller percentage of the guys who like want to get in the weeds and get super technical and super complex and super down the rabbit hole, and that's great. And so you need to be able to go through all spectrums. And the higher up you go, the more that I've seen players feel way more comfortable about pushing back,
Yeah.
right? Because if you got to the big leagues, you did it. Like
Hmm.
you got there. And so when somebody, especially like myself, who's never played in the big leagues, you're going to give me your opinion that's affecting my livelihood, you better have something behind it.
Hmm.
And I've seen and experienced like pushback. And if you aren't ready to defend your position, and not like a confrontational way, but like in a just like, hey man, like I did work behind this. Like I'm not just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what
Right.
sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen the pushback from high level players. And when you meet it with like preparation, there's a level of respect that comes from like, okay, I'm taking this seriously. So are you.
Right.
And you need to be able to articulate why you want them to work on something. Because I've seen it where it's like you push back and somebody doesn't have an answer. And it's not so much like this huge negative outcome. It's just kind of like, no, like, I think I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Right.
And like, that's not the outcome that you're looking for, right?
Right.
It's not even the catastrophic, like, get away from me. Like, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Like, that's not
Right.
what I'm saying. It's just more like you don't
Yeah.
end up getting the buy in that you're looking for to help the
Yeah.
player. And so being able to back that up, going back to all the data and how you formulate plans, like showing that you put in that effort, showing you have a lot of stuff behind your suggestion usually helps some of the buy-in. And
Yep.
sometimes they don't want that. They just,
Mm-mm.
hey man, just tell me what to do.
Yep.
What do you think I should work on today? Just just tell me what to do. And like go. Like you
Go
got to
time.
just go and do. Right?
Hmm.
You don't have to get
Immediately.
complex. He doesn't care about the graphs. He doesn't care about the numbers. He doesn't care about any of that. He just wants you to tell him what to do.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Brandon Golden here with the Brandon Golden Show. Wanted to talk about Clean Fuego, our sponsor. If you're trying to spin the baseball, just really understand how to have better dexterity. For those of y'all that don't know what dexterity is, it's just overall feeling in your fingertips. It's huge when you're trying to pitch and just understand how to backspin the baseball and really have that induced vertical break. So if you haven't already, go check out Clean Fuego, one of the best training tools on the market for being able to understand efficiency and just overall spin of the baseball. Thanks for watching the Brandon Golden Show.
Yeah. It's definitely a challenge, man, and it's such an awesome thing, and just being versatile and being able to do the multiple things that you just talked about. That's what, in my opinion, that's what makes a great coach in whatever level you're at. And obviously, the conversations are different at the high school and college level than they are in the minor leagues or the big leagues. But if you were looking to develop, maybe let's say if you were looking to develop a hitting staff, if you were the farm director of an organization, or if you're the head guy in the big leagues, like what would you look for in players? Let's go. What would you look for in players first, and then what would you look for in coaches second?
So for players, um, you said if I'm a head hitting coach or I'm a coach or I'm a front office, like what
Yeah,
do
if
you?
you're let's say if you're like the farm director, if you're like you're the GM, you're the one drafting and bringing guys in.
Yeah, I think when you draft a guy, you want to see something, um, like what do they do that separates them from a physical standpoint,
Yeah.
and is there anything that they separate themselves from like a mental standpoint? Because I go back and look at some of the guys from the minor leagues that are now in the big leagues, and most of them mentally like have some sort of an edge.
Hmm.
And some of those edges are not like so much confidence. Some of it is like delusion in a good way, like
Yeah.
delusional belief.
Seriously. Yeah.
Um, and other ones are like delusional, like criticism of
Yeah.
themselves and like very insecure,
Yeah.
but that's like what drives their work ethic. Like, I just went 3 for 3, but like, I don't know if I totally buy it. Like, I need to keep working on X, Y, or Z. And I think that's what there's got to be there's usually some sort of mental separator, physical separator, or combination of both. If we're talking about physical, like, yeah, you want to see guys who like generally are pretty twitchy and have some bat
Right.
speed and not necessarily power, right? Like, yes, great. It's guy he's 17, 18 years old who can crush balls and hit a bunch of homers, or he's in college and he projects as like a shorter duration in the minor leagues, has plus power
Yeah.
now. Like, oh, that's great. From a the younger you are, the more like underlying twitch you have. It's like you can kind of more project out that like, okay, as you add strength and maturity, some of that power is naturally going to play. So seeing that, and then what's really encouraging that would be exciting is guys' ability to conduct at bats,
Yeah.
their mental maturity to go through failure, and think through the game. And then I would say the third thing are guys who are creative in the box. So like, um, guys who have a lot of that we all call like, clubs in the bag, right? Who can shoot a ball the other way or rip a ball down the line, pull side,
Hmm.
right? Or hit a ground ball the other way or get a ball in the air and drive it, right? And
Yeah.
guys who have different solutions for different problems. Um, and so guys who are creative, solution, or guys who have creativity in terms of their swing, that's a really exciting thing because pitching is so hard. Most
Right.
guys have so many pitches now that are good that being able to be adjustable and twitchy are like two really like important things to look at. And then yeah, like the mental component I would say is, some of the guys that you see get to the big leagues are they really think through the game at a deep level, or the opposite is like they're just completely blind trust in themselves and they're just rolling.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes a ton of
So
sense.
as I'd say from a player perspective, um, from a the second question was the coach or
Yep.
as a hitting coach, like what
Yeah.
as like hiring another coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you want somebody who first of all is just a good dude, like that you can trust.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, when players trust the person, they're a lot more likely to trust the content coming out of their mouth. And some of that goes hand in hand, right? Like,
Yeah.
you need to have good stuff that comes out of your mouth, and the information you're giving them needs to be good. But also, you see a lot of coaches who are very successful because how much they care, and the players really like buy into that because there's so many critics of these players,
Yeah.
that when you have a coach that's like going to get in there and feel like, man, this guy's willing to go to war for me,
Hmm.
like that opens up a lot of doors for you to be able to help a player. And so when you have a staff where it's like you're going to have a guy who works really hard, right, who's going to be willing to use all that information, but is also like a good dude who's trustworthy and can communicate really well, and build good relationships, like that's your floor, right? Like if you have a guy who can communicate well and create good relationships, you could have a guy behind the scenes who's feeding them information of like, hey, this is what I think this guy needs to work on. But like you need somebody to be able to talk to the player, deliver the message to the player, and build that rapport with them. And so I'd say first and foremost, you need that
Yeah.
like personal connection, trustworthy grinder, like somebody you want to be. You hear people say, "Are you a foxhole type person?"
Yeah.
Right? Like, do you want to be in a foxhole with this person? Like in hitting, you're in a foxhole every day. So
Yeah.
you want that component for a fellow coach, and players want that from their coach as well. And then the obvious is like you want somebody who's going to use the resources at their disposal, who can filter information and then use all that to like get in the cage and actually
Hmm.
impart meaningful knowledge on the
Right.
hitter to get them
Yeah.
better, right? So I think there's a lot of focus on technical skills, and I learned so much being exposed to all the biomechanical reports, technology, all the advanced analytics that we had,
Hmm.
that we can use in LA and in Toronto, and we use all of those, and they're great tools to have. And it's like get proficient in that, but
Yeah,
don't neglect the ability to create meaningful relationships with players,
exactly.
because 90% of our job is like being a like mental therapist for these
Hmm.
hitters, because we're with them more than any other coach from like a just a raw like day perspective. Most of their time from a work is generally spent hitting.
Hmm.
Um, and so you're there with them, and guys might get mad when they make an error, but they're really mad when they go 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts,
Yeah,
right? And so and that falls on you to be able to help them navigate those emotional feelings that come out of that, but try and keep them grounded. So the soft skills are really important. I would say they're important in the minor leagues, and I don't want to say they're more important now, but it is just so important to be able to have that connection with these players up here, and to be able to just be there for them, like mentally,
yeah,
and to develop a relationship of trust. And that comes from the effort that you put in, your availability mentally and physically for them, to be there to work with them and to listen to them and just to go through what they're going through with them.
right.
Like having that as a coach, when you look to your left or your right, and those are the type of people you have by your side as you're going through this as a hitting coach, it makes it a whole lot easier, because hitting is really hard, and going through a full professional season, minor league or major league, is extremely challenging for a hitter and for any coach, and in this case, a hitting coach.
Yeah, 100%, man. That's awesome. This has been awesome, Lou. Just a couple more things, and I'll let you get back to your day, dude. What would be some advice you would give to maybe a high school kid that's looking to play college baseball, a college guy that's looking to break into the minor leagues, pro baseball, and then a guy that's been in the minor leagues grinding that's just trying to break into the show?
Yeah, so I would say to the high schooler, like, you need to find a way to separate yourself. Well, like if I were to go back, I would be like in high school, like I just want to separate myself physically.
Yes.
Like when you look at the top draft picks in professional baseball, most of those guys are not the guys who are like, well, he has below average bat speed. He's like makes okay contact. He's like, you know, an okay average hitter. He didn't really have any power. Um, but like he's a smart hitter.
Right.
Like those like yes, you want that might you might be describing a big leaguer, but that's at relative to big league competition with big
Exactly.
league physical skills. So like at 18, it's a lot easier, or 15, 16, 17, 18, it's a lot easier to develop your physical tools faster than your 22. So I would take advantage of that window to like, how do I physically put myself in the best position possible to like separate myself from my peers,
100%.
and to do stuff that is better than them at things that I'm in control of. So like you could go work at being stronger, you could go work at being faster, you could go work at that's going to impact your bat speed, that's going to impact your velocity. You could go
Hmm.
work at like getting good at your recovery and what dialing what you eat and dialing in all those physical side, because ultimately that's what teams are going to draft. And you could
Yep.
just look at the draft and look at people who are drafted early, and if that's how you want to get drafted, great. And if you want to go to the top schools are also going to be recruiting very similar to how the top levels of or top rounds in the draft. So if you're going to go in the top however many rounds, chances are the schools you're going to go to are like some higher end Division 1 schools.
Hmm.
So those schools are also going to be pulling from a very similar pool of physical, candidates. So like you want to put yourself in the best position possible, and the earlier you start, the better,
Yeah, 100%.
right? And then when you're in college, it's like, all right, if you have the physical tools, if you have plus bat speed, and you do have power, or you do have an above average contact rate, and you have average bat speed, like maybe try working on the bat speed a little bit. If you already have good bat speed, and maybe your plate discipline and or like swing decisions within that plate discipline, your ability to conduct at bats to be adjustable, maybe those things you struggle with, like you need to make sure from an environmental standpoint, like you should be doing this in high school too, but if you're in college, like you should be really challenging yourself to like cover those holes, because at the
Yeah.
next level, the ability to adjust and be exposed to a bunch of different pitches that are really hard, like you need to be working on covering those holes as well. And so whether that's environmental work for like making swing decisions, um, you should be doing that. If it's exposing yourself to really tough shapes and mixed BP and stuff like that to work on adjustability. And you're like, well, I already do it. It's like, well, maybe you need more of it, you
Right.
know? So it's like pushing yourself that way. Um, and then I would say for the guy who's the grinder who's just been hanging around is like, first of all, don't give up.
Yeah.
Um, you can look at Nathan Lucas, who's with the Blue Jays, um, and he's an older guy relative to when he debuted. Right,
Yeah.
like he didn't debut at a young age. He went to a Division I school, and like he was almost out of the minor leagues. Like he almost was going to retire. Like you can look up his story. He was like, I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing this, and he starts most of our games. He was starting in the World Series and the playoffs, and he was one of our most productive hitters last year in the big leagues. And so, like I would say, first of all, like don't give up.
Yeah.
It is a long road and it is challenging, but uh, sometimes perseverance like prevails over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And so, just don't give up. The second thing is, I would push for transparency with whatever organization you're with. I'm just like, why am I not there?
Yeah.
Where like what don't I do that is preventing me from going? And just be comfortable being told, like, the whole like don't call my baby ugly, like, right?
Right.
Like just
Yeah.
call my baby ugly for a minute
Call it
and
ugly.
just like
Let's
tell
go.
me the truth. Like
Yes.
where do I fall short? And try and get that feedback from your organization of just like this is where the gap is, and some of that might be your
Yeah.
age, some of that might be a physical tool, some of that might be just like what organization you're with and who's ahead of you. And
Right.
so it's just like get some transparency and be okay, and be comfortable with getting that feedback, and then be like, dang, okay, like what can I then do to try and address those things that are preventing me from like finally pushing through. So I would
Yeah.
say don't give up, and then try and get as much real honest feedback from somebody you trust, um, of like what is that thing that is preventing you.
Yeah. 100%, man. Can we talk about a former player that we had with the Dodgers? Is that all
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Wardo, Ryan Ward,
Yeah.
especially with what we're talking about now. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been an unbelievable player in the minor leagues for a long time. He's been up with LA. What, from your opinion, obviously, just maybe subjectively, what are some things that has allowed him to get there and be so successful so quickly?
So I think from a early, like as soon as he walked in the door, day one, he went to a Division I, smaller Northeast school,
Yeah.
kind of a real blue collar player.
Right. Yeah.
He's working in the off season, like with his dad, like blue collar job,
Oh
like
yeah.
just trying to make ends meet. And like that, this is the guy that you're talking about, and it's like he's physically talented. I think from a offensive perspective, he always had kind of a special profile, kind of really unique swing. But he like hit the ball hard. He could hit homers. He can do it to all parts of the field. I think what knocked him at some point in his career was like swing decisions, like high chase. He had some miss. And just throughout his career, he kind of like slowly chipped away at each one of the knocks against him
Hmm.
from the industry. And it took him much longer because then you add in like the organization he was with, right?
Yeah.
He's with the Dodgers, so obviously there's a lot of players in the big leagues who are ahead of him and just kind of like stayed the course and like didn't give up and just kept getting better and better and better and better until like the stack of receipts are so high where like you can't deny it. Um, and luckily this year he's got an opportunity, and it's been so great to see him debut. He's one of favorite players and favorite stories that I've seen.
Same.
But yeah, he's right that he's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Another very similar story to like a Nathan Lucas, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like you're grinding, you're grinding, you're grinding, you're having success, and like you just haven't gotten that opportunity. And along the way, you're chipping away at like the things that you can get better at. And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I know that he improved some of those things with his plate discipline and his miss and stuff like that over the years,
Right.
especially the last couple years. Um, and I don't think it's a coincidence that
Yeah.
he's getting an opportunity. I think if you ask a lot of people, everyone would say that like Wardo's a special dude and works
Yep.
really really hard, and just kind of a blue collar, hard nosed type of guy.
No doubt. One of my favorite guys I've coached in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
Lou, this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate it. Is there
Yeah.
any, I guess maybe like parting words or like resources you would give to either players or coaches about hitting or just how to learn about some of the stuff we talked about today?
Yeah, I think that like looking back, the things that were impactful for or obvious, like you can look, there's a ton of different books out there from motor learning to skill acquisition. Like you could look those up. Like they've already been said on every single podcast. Um,
Yeah.
there's great resources online with different people that have facilities, drive line, tread, all these different things. Like there's stuff online where you can go read about biomechanics, numbers. So like I don't just want to be redundant. I'll try and take a like creative spin on it
Yeah.
and think like some of the most impactful things and experiences that I've learned from is by talking to other people, players, coaches, and like the human connection. Because like,
Yeah.
so I think about Josh Burns, who's was with the Dodgers.
Hmm.
If you don't know, he has like an extensive baseball background, scouting, and has what always stuck out to me was like he had seen so many players from like the start of their career through their career, like professionally, and like the career end, right? And then when he goes back, like his lens is so valuable because of all the players that he's seen. And that's just one example. There are a ton of other people who are like this in their given position. Like you think about Andrew Friedman or Ross Atkins or Mark Schreiber, like all these people who've
Yeah.
been in the game for a long time and have seen so much of the game from their lens. And talking to those people and trying to learn from their experience, like you can't replicate somebody scouting for like 20 years,
Right.
right? Or being in the front office for 20 years, right? Like you can't replicate that experience unless you go and do it.
Yep.
So it's like you could go read a book and learn about skill acquisition,
Right.
right? Or you could go read a book about managing people or scouting or whatever it is. But like the person who's done it for 20 years, there's a lot, or 30 or 40 years or 10 years or 5 years. If you've done it zero, somebody has a huge head start on you. And
Yeah.
like you can learn a lot from their experience and being around those people. So I don't know exactly how to tell each person because each person's situation is different. But
Yeah.
if you want to be a major league hitting coach and you know somebody who's a major league hitting coach, like call them, talk to them. Like see what you can learn. They'll learn something from you and you can learn something from them. If you want to be a major league baseball player and you know a major league baseball player, call somebody. If you
Mhm.
want to be, but the highest person you know is in like the highest level of Division 1 baseball, call them. Like
Yeah.
learn like go to people who've experienced things that you haven't and I would say try and learn from those people. The other thing I would say is that like if you're a coach and you're a hitting coach or you're a pitching coach and you want to be better at being a hitting coach or pitching coach, you could read all the books in the world and you should, right? Like you should be as armed with information as possible. But then you need to go and do.
Hmm.
You need to just go coach.
Yeah.
And you're going to mess up and you're going to see things that work and don't work, but there's like no substitute for like going and doing it. Like
Yep.
that's just the reality. So like
I agree.
if you're back there and you're doing swing breakdowns or pitching mechanic breakdowns and you're posting that and that's great. That's awesome. Like you're ahead of so many people. It's like if you want to be the best pitching coach or the best hitting coach, um, you need to go and like do that. Like you need to
Yep.
go do it and you need to go fail and you need to get feedback because we fail on a nightly basis
Oh
and you
yeah.
just keep iterating.
Yep.
And I'm trying to think what else. Oh, if you're a hitting coach, same thing in pitching coach, don't sleep on game planning. Like you can argue it is the most important thing,
Yeah.
um, especially at this level. And so that gets a little bit more. Uh, People generally keep that a little bit more tightly to their chest at the
Oh yeah.
professional level. Um, but man, like you should think deeply, very deep. A lot of people think very deeply about the swing, and then they neglect the game planning component and just the what the game is telling you and watching the game. And there are some really good coaches that I've been around where like you sit in the dugout with them and you just listen to what they see on
Hmm.
the field, and you should not sleep on that. Like
Right.
you need get in a dugout and go watch a major league game. Get in or that's easier said than done. But like go watch a major league game is what I'm
Right.
saying.
100%.
Go watch high level. baseball. Like, what can you pick up?
Yes.
Like, game plan. You want a game plan? There's a lot of free tools online about pitchers' arsenals. If
Hmm.
you're a hitting coach and you know the Yankees are playing the Blue Jays and you see two starting pitchers, go game plan like you're the hitting coach.
I love that.
Go online and game plan and then watch the game and see if the
See what
game
happens.
plan plays out. Like,
Yeah.
you don't, just because you're not there doesn't mean you can't do it. Like,
Yeah.
how would you attack, Garrett Cole? How would you attack Kevin Gosman? Like, what
Right.
are like if you were the hitting coach for both teams? There's a lot of information out there that's free that allows you to actually formulate a pretty close game plan, and you have hitter strengths that you can look at on Baseball Savant and Fangraphs
Yep.
and heat maps. Like, go and do it. And I think you'd be surprised that, like, you're gonna be right and you're gonna be wrong and you're gonna, like,
Yeah.
what, like, why, and, like, go and do those types of things, and that will really separate you when you enter in a conversation. You start talking to a big league manager or a front office or other big league hitting coaches or big league players, where your ability to talk about how a pitcher might attack somebody um, is real. Because when you're in a dugout, a guy might come up to you right before he goes up to the plate and be like, "What do you
Yeah.
think I should? What do you think I should do right here?
Yeah.
Hey, you think I should sit on pitch X?"
Yep.
And so you want to be able to have the lens to be able to view the game to give them that real time feedback. Because when they're in the box, they're thinking through that stuff. They're like, you hear players like, "Oh, I just had a feeling like he was going to go breaking ball here." Like, why'd
Right.
you have a feeling? Well, because he was watching the game.
Yes.
And so, like, watch the game, and you could do, like, that's what I would do. Like, if I was a young coach or a player, I would just I would watch and I would use the free tools available to me if I wasn't in professional baseball. And I would
Yeah.
just, like, can I figure out how this guy's going to be attacked?
Hmm.
Like, that's ultimately going to be a really cool separator.
Yeah. I love that, man. That's awesome. Lou, man, this has been amazing, dude. Thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, thanks for listening to the Brandon Golden Show. It's been Lou Iannotti, the Toronto Blue Jays.
Thanks, man. Been great.